Hello, this is the final chapter of John Masefield's The Box of Delights. Presently, Kay realised that Abner had reached a lift. He heard the grille thrust back, then closed, and felt the lift start. When it stopped at the top of the shaft, they came out into what Kay judged to be Abner's bedroom. "Hurry, hurry," Abner caroled. "No more of the worry of thinking for all these fools." He put the box upon his table. "How it is snowing," he muttered. "I wonder what fool left my window open. There's a foot of snow on my pillow. But there is no doubt about this being a storm. No clergy will get to Chichester through this." Kay heard him slam the window to. "One moment," Abner muttered to himself. "It might be just as well if I heard what my merry mariners are up to. They aren't exactly the kind of lads to trust further than there's need. I'll tune in the wireless to their mess deck." Kay heard Abner turn a switch, and there came a confused growling murmur of knives and forks and conversation. Someone pounded a bottle on a table, and a voice said, "No gents, our gallant captain, known to his enemies as death chops, but to us as rum chops, is kindly gonna oblige with a song of his own make about one we all wot of. Pray silence for our great commander's melodious joy." There were loud cheers. Kay heard a chair pushed back. Rum Chops cleared his throat and at once burst into his melodious joy. "Our Abner is a captain bold, the nimblest ever seen. Oh, he thinks to fly with all his gold aboard our submarine. Oh, to leave his gang to wreck or hang or languish in a jail. Oh." Loud cheers followed this ditty. "That is very clever of Rum Chops," Abner muttered. "I had not given him credit for so much wit. So he has guessed that I'm leaving for good." As the coarse laughter, the cheers, banging of pots, table pounding guffaws and stamping of feet died away, Rum Chops called, "Now will you all load your pistols and charge your glasses? We'll give the last chorus fiery honours. Are you ready now?" There came the glug-glug of rum pouring from bottles and the click of many pistol hatches being snapped and re-snapped. "Ready, governor," several voices said. "I wonder what is to follow," Abner muttered. He was not long left in doubt. Rum Chops pounded the table with a bottle and began. "This may not be nice for Abner Brown, but not so nice for us, so we plan to let him drown without unpleasant fuss. So when the submarine is seething green and the water's far from shoal, we'll weigh his ills or his skulls and drop him through a hole. All through the stanza there had been sounds of ill-suppressed joy, but when Rum Chops reached the last line, bang went all the pistols, crash went all the glasses. There were yells and cheers, and the last two lines were repeated and repeated. At last the noise abated. The voice of Rat, much excited and rather confused, was heard saying, "I know another line what I could sing." "What line is that?" someone asked. Rat gurgled with laughter. "You'll die laughing at it," he said. "This is what it is, but I don't know that I can for laughing. Oh, something diddle and something diddle and oh. That's what." There was a long, awful silence. Then Kay heard one of the pirates say, "Where's that nephew of his? Here, Alf Rat, help your uncle up a bed." Abner turned off the wireless set with a click. "So," he said, Mutiny, even here. I rather feared it. No matter, they shall pay the penalty. I'll go to my island by aeroplane. And now, he went on, for the great moment. Now for my panzer. Much as I have suffered from these fools, I have suffered more from my sweet panzer. But to make sure of my sweet panzer will be but the work of half an hour. So saying, he left the room, singing a little ditty. The clock ticked slowly. It struck for a half hour, then for 10 o'clock, then for 10:30. But Abner did not return. When Kay heard the door open, he thought it would be Abner. But 2 people came in. You see, my panzer, what? A familiar voice said. I told you he was going to put a double cross on us. There is the boodle all packed up. Force-hearted, treacherous Abner, the panzer said. Ha! What? The foxy-faced man replied. My master key will soon resolve the matter. Kay heard him unlock the padlock on the chain, and then the deed box. You see, what? The foxy man said, thrusting back the lid. Cat's eyes, diamonds, pearls, emerald, rubies, everything. Even the special blue and yellow sapphires. Never shall he look upon them again, the panzer said. Quick, into our suitcase. They're going to fly together, Kay thought. In their hurry and excitement, they did not notice Kay, but thrust bag after bag of jewels into the suitcase. Wait, you've left something, the panzer said. It's only a bit of rag, the foxy-faced man answered. It was not a bit of rag, it was poor trembling Kay at the bottom of the box. The foxy-faced man picked him up between thumb and forefinger and pitched him into the grate, where luckily he fell into the ashes, not into the fire. It was only a bit of old chamois, the foxy-faced man said. A bit of jeweller's rag. Now, we had better be off. Why? The panzer said. Fill the box up with coal. My Sylvia, what an inspiration, the foxy-faced man said. Never was your equal born. Nimbly he placed some big lumps of coal from the scuttle into the deed box, carefully muffling their jolting with a towel and a tablecloth. My dear Charles, you think of everything, the panzer said. Who would not, inspired by Sylvia? He answered, taking up the keys. Now, swift. There it is, locked. There is the chain, and there, finally, the padlock. Beautiful, and no traces left. And now, away, my Charles, the panzer said. Wait yet, my Sylvia, the foxy-faced man answered. He has put old Joe in one of the dungeons. We must set old Joe free first. Did you ever see his zoo? I never did, the panzer said. You shall now, the foxy-faced man said. We'll have time before the police are here. He saw them work the mechanism of the lift and disappear within it. As soon as they were gone, he crawled out of the grate, which was unpleasantly hot. He was crouching in a corner of the room when he heard the lift draw near. Sylvia, Charles, and Joe came out. Sylvia wearing 9 diamond necklaces. There's the box that he packed the boodle in, Charles said, pointing to the deed box. I'll boodle him a beauty, Joe said. What can I do against him, I wonder? Oh, come along, Joe, Charles said. I'll put my boot through his window first, Joe said. He kicked through each pane. Snow came diving in as a cloud. Sylvia Pouncer peered into the fireplace. Don't you throw away a bit of chamois, Charles? She asked. I'd like it now if you could find it to give my diamonds a rub with. Charles peered into the grate beside her. "It was just a bit of dirty chamois," he said. "Like a little rag. What? I'm afraid it went into the fire and got burned. Doesn't seem to be there now. Perhaps we'd better come along now. Come along, Joe." "I shall never find the box again now," he said to himself. "If it's in the deed box, Abner will find it, as the boy said he would. And if it isn't in the deed box, it is probably in one of those bags which they are carrying. They've been sharing the spoils, evidently. There is just a chance that it has been spilled out onto the floor here. Oh, I do hope it has." He looked with a beating heart, but could not see it. While he was looking, the door of the room opened and Abner came in. "Confound this window," he said. "The snow's drifted in all over the place and broken the window too. Where on earth has the pouncer got to? Well, I must be going and leave that deed undone." He picked up the deed box. As he did so, Kay swung himself once more into the turned-up trouser end. Abner took the lift down to the gallery and walked swiftly to Cole's cage, where he put down the box, sat upon it, and spoke. "Now, Ramon, or Cole, my merry old soul," he said, "I have only one thing to say to you. I want your elixir. How about it?" "No," Cole said. "Nothing that you can offer shall buy the elixir from me. You are unfit to possess it." "You realize the alternative," Abner said. "If I am not to have the elixir, be sure that you will not profit from it. You will have this iron wheel. You see this iron wheel in the rock face. It works sluices by which I can flood these cellars at will. Your box for your elixir. It is a fair exchange." "You have nothing with which to bargain," Cole answered. "You say that you have my box, or will have it. You are wrong. You will not have it." "Very good then," Abner said. "The water shall come in." He took the wheel and was about to swing it round when a thought seemed to strike him. "Wait one moment," Abner said. "I confess I do set a little store by your elixir of life. You are not ignorant of magic. If you see my helper, you will hear from him that your box of delights will be mine before midnight. That may convince you." He lifted his hand in the familiar way, and there came a noise of dripping, as in the corridor appeared the boy whom Abner had smitten with the timetable. The creature's head was still deep within his chest, his legs still telescoped into his body, but his sulkiness and pertness were gone. He was dripping wet. "So," Abner said, "the waterfall has taken some of the insolence from you, it would seem. Now tell this gentleman the truth. The box that I search for, shall I not have it by midnight?" "No," the boy whimpered. "You told me that I should have it," Abner said. "I didn't," the boy said. "I said that you have it under your hand, and you've had it under your hand. You've had it under your hand for something like an hour this afternoon, and you didn't know. Now it isn't under your hand, and it won't be under your hand again, and you don't know where it is, and you'll never know where it is." "Tell me instantly where it is," Abner said. "I won't tell you another thing," the boy said. "You can peg me under that waterfall, or melt me in the fire, or bury me, or blow me through the winds. Yet I'll never tell you another thing, except that you had the box and didn't know it, and now you won't have it again, ever. So that's what I call squish to you. Abner smote the boy on his neck, and Kay saw him telescope up under the blow. This time his legs went right through his body and out of his shoulders. "Get you back to your waterfall, and you will stay there for 7 years." At this moment Kay saw Cole Hawlings in the cage lifting his right hand in spite of his eyes. As he did so, the boy began to untelescope. The legs went down, the body rose up from the legs. The neck and head rose up from his chest, till there he was a boy again, looking rather less bony and unpleasant than he had looked in Abner's study. "Well, I shan't," the boy said to Abner. "I shan't be pegged under the waterfall, for I've been set free, see, from you and yours. A jolly good squish to you! Squish, Abner!" At this he suddenly became fainter and disappeared upwards. "You see," Cole said, "you have deceived yourself. The box will not be yours, nor shall my secret be yours, whatever happens to myself." "Very well," Abner said. "I am not to have your elixir, it seems. And I am not to have your box. But I shall have something that's revenge on you. For I am going to drown you, Cow Hawlings, like a rat in a trap." He seized the wheel and spun it round. Kay heard a distant clattering noise, a thud, and then a great fierce but still distant roaring rush of water. "You hear?" Abner said. "The sluice is working beautifully. There's a great head of water in the lake. 30 feet of dammed back flood water is coming after you. It won't take very long to reach you. Now I shall set off with my little earnings to a place of rest and beauty." "You will not set off," Cole answered. "All the exits to this place are now guarded by police." "No police can guard the exit by which I shall go," Abner answered. "Goodbye. Sleep well, Cole Hawlings." He kissed his hand to his victim, and he turned to walk away. Kay slipped from the folded trouser end he had had enough of Abner. Abner whistled to his guard of little wolves that were yapping and snarling. They came to heel with their little headlights glaring like radiant eyes. One of the little motor cars snapped at Kay and almost got him. From far away, Kay heard something give way at the intake of the water. The rush of floodwater increased suddenly threefold. "Mr. Hawlings," Kay said. "Mr. Hawlings." "Ah, is that you, Master Harker?" Cole said, leaning towards the bars of his cage. "If I were you, I wouldn't keep that size, Master Harker." "Mr. Hawlings," Kay said, "I have lost your box and now I can't get back to my proper size, and the water's roaring in and he's got you all chained up here in these caves." "I told you, Master Harker," Cole said, "that the wolves were coming very close, and now they are here." "Could you suggest something, Mr. Cole, please," Kay said, "that I could do to help?" "Do you remember the time when the wolves came very close at Seekings? Yet I got away." "I do indeed," Kay said. "Could you do something of that sort now?" "Why, I am not so sure, Master Kay," Cole said. "Have you such a thing as a pencil and a bit of paper?" "No, I have not," Kay answered. "That's a pity," Cole answered. "But if you'll come up into my cell here through the bars. Now, you see in the corner there my coat that they took from me. I can't reach it, I am chained. If you can rummage in the pockets, you should find a bit of paper and a pencil." Sticking from one of Cole's pockets was a piece of timber which looked like a newly cut large sapling. Near it was a pocket-book some 4 times bigger than Kay himself. "I can't use these," Kay said. "Get down into the pocket, Master Harker," Cole said. "For inside, if you grope, you may find a bit of lead that was broken off and a crumpled sheet or 2. Kay crept into the pocket, which was rather like going into a coal mine. There were some crumbs like lumps of rock, but further down he found a piece of lead in weight and shape like a poker. Near it was a piece of folded paper. He dragged these out into the light. "I've got them," he said. "Good," Cole said. "Now, are you a good hand at drawing?" "No, I'm not very good," Kay said, "except at horses going from right to left." "Well, suppose you draw horses," Cole said, "coming to bite these chains in 2. Kay opened the folded sheet of paper and bent back the crumpled corners, suddenly aware that the wolves were running with a little whirring snarl. Little motor cars with wolf headlights rushed from different points of the cave and snapped at him. "Don't heed those, Master Kay," Cole Hawling said. It was not so easy not to heed them, for any of their bonnets was big enough and strong enough to snap him down into the engines, where he would have been champed in no time. "Hit them with the pencil, Master Kay," Cole Hawling said. "I don't think I can lift the pencil," Kay said. "It's too heavy." "Well, try now," Cole said. Kay tried, and to his great delight found that he could lift this great fir tree of a pencil. As the motor cars came at him once more, he smote the bonnet a lusty blow. The car at once upset and rolled over and over and over, and the other little wolf motor cars drew to one side and clashed their bonnets at Kay. Snap, snap. "Now, draw, Master Kay," Cole Hawling said. 2 horses coming to bite the chains in 2. Kay went at it with a piece of lead like a poker, on the crumpled paper big as a blanket, which kept rolling up and hitting him. Sometimes in earlier days, when he had drawn horses, he had felt that his efforts had some merit. Somehow it seemed to him that when he drew, that what he drew was, for once, rather like a horse. But suddenly out of the air was a whirring yap. Came little aeroplanes with heads like wolves, snapping their propellers at him and trying to knock the lead from his hand. "Bat them with a pencil, Master Harker," Cole said. Kay lifted the lead with which he was drawing and smote one of the aeroplanes. The propeller snapped, the aeroplane crashed into 2 others, which spun round and round in flames and set fire to one of the motor cars, which exploded. "That's the way, Master Harker," Cole said. "Now the other horse." The wolves stood aside while Kay finished the second horse. Somehow they didn't look more like horses than cows. They hadn't got the Newfoundland dog look that some of his horses had. In fact, the drawings did stand out from the paper rather strangely. The light was concentrated on them. As he looked at them, he saw that the light was partly fire from their eyes and manes, partly sparks from their hooves. "They're real horses," he cried. "Look!" They were 2 terrible white horses with flaming mouths, striking great jags of rock from the floor. In an instant they were, one on each side of Cole Hawling's, champing the chains as though they were grass, crushing the shackles, biting through the manacles and plucking the iron bars as though they were shoots of a plant. "Steady there, boys," Cole said to the horses as he rose and stretched himself. He put on his coat, pocketed the paper and pencil and lead, and placed Kay on one of the horses. There before them the water was coming in. Angry little eddies spun away with dead leaves and bits of twig. Everywhere in that expanse of caverns there was the booming, roaring, drumming of water echoes. The horses shied at the water when their hooves touched the stream, they hissed and smoked as white-hot metal will when wetted. "Back a little, Master Harker," the old man said. "These horses are fiery. They can't abide water which puts out fire, as you know. We must proceed once more as before," he said. "With this paper and pencil, draw me a long, roomy boat with a man in her, sculling her." "I'm not very good at boats, and I've never drawn a man sculling," Kay said. "Draw now," Corwin said, "and put a man in the boat's bows, and draw him with a bunch of keys in his hand." "Well, here's the boat," Kay said, "and here's the man sculling. Now this is the man standing in the bows with a bunch of keys." "Won't you give him a nose?" Cole said. "Men generally do have them, and they're fine things to follow on a dark night when you can't see your way." "I'm afraid the nose is rather like a stick," Kay said. The old man took the drawing to the water, set it afloat, and watched it drifting away. Somewhere far away to the left, there came the noise of another rock or barrier collapsing under the pressure of the stream. The swirling of the water intensified and took to itself an angrier note. Bigger waves rushed out of the darkness at them and licked up more of the floor. "The sluice mouth has given way," Kay said. "That is so," Cornwallings answered. "But the boat is coming too, you see." Indeed, down the stream in the darkness of the corridor a boat was coming. She had a light in her bows. Somebody far aft in her was heaving at a scull which ground in the rowlocks. A man stood in the bows with something gleaming in his hand, which looked like a bunch of keys. As he drew nearer, Kay saw that this man was a very queer-looking fellow, with a nose like a piece of bent stick. Cole lifted Kay into a safe place in the stern sheets, and then turned to fetch on board the horses, who stamped, snorted, and backed, not liking the water. "And now, perhaps," old Cole said, "we'd better shove off to see if we can save some other prisoners. We haven't too much time, the way the water's coming in." Kay looked along the corridor in the direction from which the water was pouring and saw something shining on the floor just above the edge of the stream. As it caught the light and sparkled. "Oh," Kay said, Look, it's your box. The foxy-faced man must have dropped it." "That is what it is," old Cole said. "And what quick eyes, Master Harker." The old man went swiftly along the boat's length and vaulted over the gunwale into the stream, which was now over his ankles, caught the glittering treasure as it sailed by, and vaulted back into the boat. "Shove off," he said, and reaching to Kay, he restored his shape at a touch. "That's rather better, Master Kay," he said. "Indeed it is," Kay said, "and look, there are some oars floating by. They must have come from the lake." He leaned over the side of the boat and salved one oar. Cole salved a second. "Now here we are," Cole said. "You stand on that side and shove her off the rocks, and I will do the same on this side." The current drove the boat into the alleys of blackness. The gallery in which they were floating was now almost full. They had to stoop to avoid the roof, often snapping off stalactites as they passed. As they entered another gallery, there, clinging to a stalactite submerged up to the waist, was a drenched and sodden rat, crying, "Pity a poor drowning man, an old naval pensioner what give his youth for the Empire." The man with the boat hook said, "I'll fetch that chap a clip as we pass." No, Kay said. "He will help us to find the prisoners." Cole Hawlings leaned over and pulled the rat on board by his mangy collar. He was very cold and shivering with wet and terror. That's what comes, he said with chattering teeth, of having systems burst. Time was when a cellar was a cellar, but now in these upside down days, folk keep their waters with their wine, it seems. You know these cellars, Kay said. Where are the prisons with the clergymen in them? They be what you call religious parties, the rat asked. They're along here quite close. I was having as nice a bit of religious biscuit as ever I ate out of one of their pockets when this water came in and I had to leave. Such is life, that's what. They were along here, Kay asked, pointing into the cave. They were along there, the rat said. As was the biscuit. The biscuit will be poked by this. The religious party's not much better. I suppose you ain't got a bit of bacon rind you could give a poor man. No, we haven't, he said. There's nobody keeps bacon rind now, the rat said. They're too proud, stuck up, I call it. Yeah. The boat drove under a low-hanging stretch of cave. There, near a stalactite, was a hole in the roof where Kay thought he saw the evil mouth of Alf, saying, "Up it, uncle!" As the boat drove under the stalactite, Kay saw Alf stretching a dirty paw to the rat, who sprang, caught it, swung himself to the hole, and disappeared. Well, that got rid of him, Kay said. And there are the cells. He was wrong. It was not the prison. It was the cell containing Caroline Louisa. It's all right, Kay cried. We're coming to get you out. Try your keys, key man, Cole said. The man with the nose like a broken stick took his keys and opened the door without difficulty. I'm afraid you're sopping wet and half frozen, Kay said to Caroline Louisa as he helped her in. But we'll soon get you to some dry and warm things. At this moment they heard a hail from along the corridor. Boat ahoy! Somebody away there in the darkness of the alley was clapping hands and shouting to attract attention. Who are you? Cole cried. The Tatchester Cathedral staff, the bishop's voice answered. The boat drove along the gallery. There, indeed, ankle-deep in the stream at the edge of the corridor were the bishop, the dean, the archdeacon, the bishop's chaplain, the canons, the minor canons, the precentor, the organist, the master vestrer, the bursar, the librarian, the chief theologian, and Peter Jones. Cole and his crew helped them on board. How on earth did you all get out? Kay asked. Well, the bishop said, we've been out some time. A man and a woman came down to let out a friend of theirs called Joe. They went away with him, but after a minute Joe ran back with the keys and let us all out. We started off as he told us. The caves were lit at that time, but some terrible scoundrels, pirates evidently wearing red aprons and sea boots, came stamping along, led by one whom they called Rum Chops. They said it's no good going that way, all the lower caves are already full and our submarines at the bottom of them sunk. They ran on and we followed them, but all the lights went out suddenly and we lost them. Since then we have been groping in the dark, almost at the end of our matches and our hope. Where are we? Can you tell us? Down in the heart of the Chester Hills, Old Cole said. But perhaps we'll get you out before long. Give way, all. Where are the others? Kay asked. What others? The dean asked. The bell ringers, the choir boys, and at least half the choir, Kay said. Oh, and the friends of the cathedral, and perhaps a lot of others. Shout, everybody, Cole said. If they've not all been drowned, they may hear us. They shouted. Their voices echoed and boomed among the galleries, and it seemed to Kay that some other sound of voices could be heard when the echoes died a little. Isn't that singing? He said. What quick ears, Master Harker, Cole said. Singing it is. Away along there in the darkness. Heave all together now, for they must be sorely pressed. They drove on against the stream until they heard the voices of the bell ringers and some of the choir singing Good King Wenceslas. They shouted to reassure them and soon heard answering shouts. It was pitiful to hear the cries of the choir boys saying, Oh, if only I'd known, I'd never have cheeked my poor mother. Or, I wish I hadn't tied that tin can on the dog's tail. Cheer up, Cole shouted to them. We'll soon get these locks open. But to get these locks open was not easy. It was a different kind of lock from any the key man had known. He tried one key after another. There's nothing for it, the key man said solemnly, but to compose yourselves unto a set of watery tunes. A set of watery rubbish, Cole said, heaving himself out of the boat to the door. Why, no wonder you couldn't get them to work. The doors have spring catches, not locks at all. There you are, lively with you now, that's the ticket. Are you all on board? Yes, the master bell ringer said. This is the lot of us. We'll push off then upstream, said Cole. All lie on our backs and push the boat forward by our boots upon the ceiling. The boat forged slowly ahead with gurglings and cluckings of water. There was a great current against them, and in some places the roof was very near. Kay could see little save archings of rock, which sometimes glistened with water and were sometimes hung with stalactites. In one place the river ran through a wide cavern, the wall of which had been painted with a procession of men, leading bulls and horses. That was our old religion, Master Harker, Cole said, nodding towards it. It was nothing like so good as the new, of course. But it was good fun in its day, because it ended in a feast. You didn't eat horses, Kay said, did you? Ah, didn't we? Cole said. After this they came into a narrow cave where the current was very strong. A sort of glimmer of light showed ahead. There is moonlight, and there is the sluice, Cole cried. Kay sat up. There ahead was a silvery shaking patch of light with a troubled roaring water ahead of them, pouring down into a fall. All about them the water eddied and joggled. The boat tossed. The men heaving with their boots trebled their efforts, and slowly it plunged forward against the rush. They will never get up a fall like that, the bishop said. Where a salmon can go, a man can go, said Cole. This is only the first half. There is another fall above this. The hold of that tumbled tree there, it seems to me to be jammed firm. We can haul ourselves up by that. Heaving all together, they drove the boat into the rush and upwards. Icy cold water spurted all over them in a sheet, but they hove again, held all they had won, and then hove on onwards to the top of the first fall. There beyond them was another shorter fall. In bright moonlight, at the mouth of this upper fall, Kay saw Abner heaving on a big winch handle, which worked the sluice there, Abner was crying out, "This thing has jammed. It ought to be wide, but it's only half open. Open, will you?" He hove and hove. Then he left the winch handle and dug at one of the cogwheels with a knife. "It's this cog that's jammed," he cried. "Open! Open!" The boat forged forward to the foot of the second fall. "We are in luck's way," Cole said. "See, there's an iron railing along the fall. We can heave up by that." All hands seized the iron rail and drove the boat up. In the fury of his own efforts, Abner heard nothing of the boat's approach. Kay saw him fling off his coat and again heave upon the winch. The boat was just behind him, but he knew nothing about her. "Now," Cole said, "heave together! Heave!" Under their enormous heave, the boat moved up in spouting, drenching jerks, drove on past the astonished Abner and the roaring fall into the calm water of the lake. Just as Kay passed Abner, something big swooped silently down and hovered just above their heads. Kay saw that it was one of the silent aeroplanes used by the gang. A light suddenly went up within its pilot house, by which Kay saw the Pouncer, the foxy-faced man, and Joe leaning from the windows. "Oh, Abner, did you really think to diddle me?" the Pouncer called. "We've got all your jewels, Abner." "Ah, what?" the foxy-faced man cried. "Goodbye, Abner," Joe called. Kay saw him lean further out and heave down what seemed like a bomb on Abner's head. It struck his head and exploded, but it was not a bomb, it was a 2-pound bag of flour. "Got him," Joe said. Then the aeroplane lifted and was away into the air. Blinded by flour, Abner came too near to the sluice, slipped, clutched, gave a startled cry and fell headlong into the torrent. For one instant Kay saw his legs, then they were sucked down into the gulf and disappeared. Before any of the people in the boat could fling off a coat and go in after him, there came a swift warning noise of yielding in the structure of the sluice, now all sapped by the pouring of the cataract. It collapsed suddenly and utterly. The released water surged over it in one great swirl and filled its mouth as the boat drove out into the moonlit lake. How the scene had changed since Kay had been there in the morning. The world was white with deep snow, many trees branchless or broken, and those which remained bowed with great clots of snow upon them. But what was happening at the training college? There were lights on in all the windows, men floundering with lanterns outside the house, men calling. There were shouts of, "Here's another of them hiding in the outhouse. Another pair of handcuffs for this chap, quick!" A party of men in the snow near the lakeside hailed to the boat to stop. The voice of the inspector cried, "Halt there in the boat! Halt there! We've got covered! Who are you?" "The Bishop of Tatchester and all the prisoners," the bishop called. "Why, is that you, your grace?" cried the inspector. "Pass the word there that the bishop's saved. And you, your grace, would you ask your boatman to come in towards the shore a bit?" As the boat drew in, he said, "Well, I'm thankful to see you safe and sound again. Is that all your party?" "Yes, everyone, we're all here," the voices answered. "Pass the word to the wireless men," the inspector called, "to report all all saved. We're in time, it seems. But it was an near thing. I'll tell your grace how it came about. The chief constable thought we'd better act on Master Arca's information, But by that time the snow made it difficult to get here. However, what with planes and a will, we just did it. We have got most of these birds already, and we'll have the rest before dawn. They can't get far in this snow, and we'll have the leader too, for all he's so clever. He has gone down into the caves with the flood, O'Hoolins answered. I don't think any man will find any part of him again. Now, can we come ashore there? No, don't you try it here, the inspector cried. You will never get through the snow on this side. By the way, have you got Master Archer among you? Yes, Kay cried. I am here. Oh, I'm so glad to see you safe, Master Archer. It's through you that all the rest are safe, the inspector called back. Oh, and Master Archer, my nephew's down at Christmas, and he has bought a pair of Belgian airs for you, as pretty a prize pair as ever I did see. Now I must go to my men, but if you will shove your boat over there by that little bathing box, I think you'll get ashore there without being sunk in the snow. They gave way as well as they could with their 2 oars, a plank and a boat hook. Presently they ran the boat alongside the springboard and clambered out. The 2 horses whinnied and shook their manes. The 2 boatmen leaped on their backs and galloped away, straight up the slope of the Roman camp. They disappeared over the rampart and were seen no more. Indeed, now that the party had landed on the lakeside, they were amazed at the snow that had fallen in such a short time. Quite close to them in what had been thickets in the woods, the wind had driven the snow capriciously into drifts that might well have been 8 or 9 feet deep. Kay, who remembered the path near the water, was amazed to see it so deeply covered. But whatever the storm had been, it had now passed over, leaving a clear sky with a full moon shining, so brightly that only the very big stars could be seen. It's 11 o'clock at night, after 11, the bishop said. We'd better push on to Hope under Chester's and telephone from there. They took a few steps along the path and then realised it might well take them all night to flounder through the drifts. Well, it's very disappointing, the bishop said. I'm afraid that after all there's no chance of our holding midnight service in any church in the diocese. I'm not so sure, Your Grace, Colehorling said. A travelling man who goes up and down the world, he finds ways of doing things. Or doesn't he? He asked Kay. I think he does, Kay said. Ah, you think he does? Colehorling said. I think by this and that we needn't give up hope yet. Listen, all. Excuse me. The night was so still that standing there in the snow, they could hear the bells of 9 churches ringing for Christmas. Above the noise of the bells, Kay heard the jangling of lesser bells, or so it seemed. As it died away, he felt he was mistaken, but immediately it broke out again, louder than before. They were bells not ringing to any tune or time. They're sleigh bells, he said. Aye, it's Father Christmas, said the precentor, coming with his team of reindeer. But it was not Father Christmas. As the bells rang loud and clear, some lights appeared over the wall of the Roman camp. Loping towards them, seeming hardly to brush the snow with their paws, came a magnificent team of harnessed lions drawing a long sledge driven by a lady whose eyes shone like the sparks of fire. Kay saw at once that she was the lady of the oak tree, who had stood by Bob's shop waiting for a word from Colehorling's. Outside the glove of her left hand was the strange ring with the St. Andrew's cross upon it. Kay was amazed at the beauty and strength of the lions, their gleaming eyes and the way in which they tossed back their manes and snarled. or scuffled the snow with their pads, or showed their teeth with coughing, terrifying roars. He had never seen lions so beautiful, so powerful, nor with eyes so full of yellow flame. "Get in, Bishop," the lady said. "I can take half of you in this sleigh." The bishop and some of the others got into the sleigh, which seemed to be made of bright gold. It was heaped with great scarlet rugs and the furs of strange beasts. As soon as they were snugly in the sleigh under the rugs, the lady called, "I must leave before my team starts quarrelling with the other team." She called the lions, who bounded forward, roaring. Kay saw them whirl round in a half circle, sending a great sheet of snow aloft. Then they strode into the night, striking sparkles out of the air. Kay had been delighted by the first sleigh, though the lions had a little scared him. But what was his delight when he saw the second sleigh drawn by unicorns. "Oh," he said, "unicorns! And they always told me that they never existed." But there was no doubt about these. It was a team of 8 of the most beautiful unicorns that ever stepped, in build something like the very best white Arab stallions, only slimmer in the barrel and even neater in the leg. From their brows sprouted the most exquisite white horns, about 2 feet long, sharp as needles and glowing like mother of pearl. Their traces and harness were of silver, all studded with moonstones. They were driven by a man whose sleeves were hung with little silver chains, and whose helm bore antlers. Over his glove a red cross glowed upon a ring. "Oh, it is Herne again," Kay said. "I do love going with Herne the hunter." "Jump in, the rest of you," Herne cried. "There will be room for all of you." The sleigh was heaped with polar bear skins and great white fleeces from some mountain sheep. They all clambered on board and snuggled down into the fur. The driver called to his unicorns, who whinnied together and tossed up the snow with their hooves before whirling round and away. Hawlings, who had a most beautiful voice, Kay thought, began to sing this carol. "George took his lanterns from the nail and lit it at the fire. He said the snow does so assail, I'll shut the cows in byre. Amid the snow by a dawn a man and woman lay. George pitied them, they were so poor, and brought them to the hay. And there within the manger bars a little child was born, all bright below a cross of stars, and in his brow a thorn. The oxen lowed to see their king, the happy donkey brayed. The cocks and hens all perched did sing, and George knelt down and prayed. And straight a knocking at the door, and torches burning red, the 2 great kings with milky ore, with robes and wine and bread. And all the night time rolled away, with angels dancing down. Now praise we that dear babe today, that bears the cross and crown. It was most beautiful to drive through heaven thus. The shining country spread out below them, starred by the lights in villages and towns, and musical with bells ringing for Christmas. Sometimes big white and tawny owls came floating alongside the sleigh, so close that Kay could reach out his hand and stroke them. "I say," he said, "how beautifully your unicorns move." "You see, Master Kay, they hate being beaten by the lions," Herne said. Kay had some misgivings as to what would happen if they caught up with the lions. Then he thought that the drivers would probably be able to stop any fatal battle. "There is the land you know," Herne Hunter said. Leaning over the rail of the sleigh, Kay saw Condicut, brightly lit, and heard a few notes from the famous Condicut bells. The unicorns were now going so fast that it was only a moment before he saw the pinnacle tower of Tachister Cathedral, floodlit for the great night and all the lights of Tachister. Of course, he thought, everybody in the city has lit a window as part of the celebration. The unicorn swerved suddenly, then swerved again in a great sweep, cutting in ahead of the team of lions, who roared with rage at being passed. Dipping down, both sleighs skimmed into the snow and galloped its feathery surface for Tachister Gate. A delicate faint noise of bells came to them from the Tachister parish churches. "Oh, there, listen now," one of the cathedral bell ringers said to Kay. "Christmas Eve, near midnight, and no bells ringing in the cathedral. No, not one. I'll never thought to hear so unchristian a silence. Never." "There's nothing stamps a Christian town more than its bells," Colhorland said, "and a wandering man gives heed to bells, for often in the dark night they will ring him home, who would otherwise be ate by wolves and that." "I could weep," another bell ringer said, "that our great bell, old Trutney, of 1427, isn't throwing his tongue. He did ring in King Henry from the French wars, old Trutney." "Well, we might still be in time to start, old Trupany," the dean said. "It is not 11:45, and we are nearly there. The only questions are, can we reach the cathedral in all this snow? And have these ruffians who kidnapped us stolen the bell tower keys, or cut the bell ropes?" "We shall soon know, sir," Cole said. "The snow is deep. It has been a sad storm. Wolves' weather, as we used to say in King Harold's time." Now that they were over the common nearing the gate, Kay could see what desolation the storm had wrought. The telegraph posts were down, the brackets of telephone wires had been wrenched from buildings, and 2 old elms uprooted. The snow had drifted so deep at the gate and in the high street that no one had trodden it nor tried to drive it. The way was white, unspecked snow, deserted under the lamps. The sleighs turned up the narrow lane known as St. Margaret's Barbican. The snow scattered from their runners with a crisp, soft, slithering swish. It was so deep in that narrow lane that Kay could see into the lighted rooms on the first floors of the old houses. He saw black beams, old men and women drinking to Christmas, or stooped over children's stockings as they filled them with toys, neat surprise packages and oranges. As they sped out of St. Margaret's Lane into the Parvis, the cathedral suddenly rose up in front of them with its enormous black bulk, its windows unlit, its tower transfigured with floodlight, its ledges, mouldings and carvings all topped with snow. A man held up a lantern to check the unicorns coming slowly past the team to the sleigh with his lantern lifted, so that he might see who was there. Kay noticed that he was dragging a spade over his left hand and wearing rough dark sackcloth over all, and that other men clad like him were shoveling snow from the north door. "Our passing, brothers, to St. Michael's door. We'll clear the way for ye," the man who held the lantern said. He waved his light and Hearn moved the unicorns up the path to the door, the shovellers standing aside as they passed and calling blessings on them. They were all little men with faces which looked white and tense in that dark place. "I believe their heads are all shaven," Kay thought. "Are those the monks?" he asked. "These are the monks of the Abbey, Master Harker," Colhorland said. "For on such a Christmas Eve, what one of them would keep away? They've all come for the glory of St. Michael's Abbey." Whoever they were, Kay long remembered the thin, eager faces of the monks on both sides of the approach lit by the lantern. There was someone inside the porch working at the fuse box with a clutter of tools and one little inefficient electric torch. "He's mind," this man said. "You can pass him to the side." "Oh," the bishop said. "It is the Winter, the electrician. Can you give us lights in the cathedral?"
"Why, welcome back, my lord bishop," he said. "Welcome indeed. But as to your lights, I can't give you as much as one. No, not a light, your grace. Whether it's these fuses or something worse, I can't at the moment say."
"Just a quarter of an hour," the dean said, "to robe and get the bells and lights and organ going. I wonder, will that snow shoveler very kindly lend me his lantern? Come then to the dean's cell, where we shall know if all the keys have been taken." He led the way into the end of the dark north aisle, where he unlocked the office known as the dean's cell and struck a light and lit the tapers, which he sometimes used for heating sealing wax. "Now they've left us alone," he said. "Here are all the keys." There on the wall, neatly ticketed and hung with plaques of wood or brass to keep them from being easily pocketed, were all the cathedral keys. Some clergymen in robes who had been waiting outside the office now welcomed him.
"I am Josiah Stalwart,"
one of them said. "We were here..." "I am Josiah Stalwart," one of them said. "We are all here ready to carry on in case of need. If you'll allow us, I will go up to light the choir." When they had gone, the dean gave his orders. "Bell ringers first," he said. "Here are the keys of the belfry. You may still have time to ring the bells in and start to chime before midnight. Now, where has my lord bishop gone?"
"He's gone to robe," the bishop's chaplain replied. "He promised long ago to bless the bell ringers in the tower tonight before they begin to ring."
"I was afraid for a moment," the dean said, "lest he should have been captured again. Now, vergers, take quickly all the wax candles in the storeroom and set them in the old sconces in the nave and in the transepts, where they will at least make the darkness visible. Choir boys, quick to the vestry to robe. Anyone who has nothing to do with the service, get out candles, please, with the vergers, and help to light the doors. We must let in the people in a moment. Who are those there, please? Mr. Hawlings and Kay, will you very kindly take these old bronze incense tripods to the west door? Put wax candles in them and light them so that the people coming in may see where they are treading." Kay had not seen him enter the church, but when he and Cole had placed the bronze tripods near the great entrance, lo, there was Arnold of Tody beside them, looking madder than ever, brighter in the eye and queerer in his way.
"Ah," he said, "this is the Feast of Nativity. You will pardon and excuse this night. Be Christmas."
Yes, Kay said. "Christmas dans 5 minutes.
"Ah," Arnold said, "then I'm back in Anno Domini."
"Yes, to be sure," Cole said, "and you must have a sup from my bottle that I brought all the way from Spain for you. And here is your box of delights that you have been parted from for so long."
No, Arnold said. Keep it. Now that I'm back in Anno Domini, I'll stay there, thank you. But you must have here a sup from my bottle from a temple that Alexander took. See now, I will show."
He produced a small glass bottle which he opened over one of the bronze incense tripods. He poured into the cap of this a little fragrant oil from his bottle and a few drops more into the second of the censers.
"Watch now," he said,
as Kay watched the oil burst into a bright light which lit up that end of the nave.
"So Alexander found it burning,"
Arnold said.
"In that temple beyond the Gedrosian waste, or one of the other wastes. It will burn for 700 years, being oil of eternity."
Kay heard the people outside the west door cheering, with cries of "Hooray! There go the lights! There's going to be a service after all!" Some hands pounded on the doors as Kay and Cole turned the giant key in the lock and dragged back the bolts one by one. All Chichester seemed to be gathered outside there, waiting to get in. "Oh," some were saying, "whoever's going to take the service, have they found the clergy?" "No, indeed," others said. "Nor ever will, I'm afraid. No, the poor bishop's in his grave by this. I'm told the dean's legs have been found done up in brown paper, gaiters and all, in the Brighton waiting room. These people go murdering are just like wolves. They stick at nothing." As Cole Hawlings seized one leaf of the double door, they seized the other. Swinging the great doors back as far as they would go, the lights from the tripod lit up a sea of faces gathered there, cheering the opening of the doors. As the cheers rose, Kay saw that a great table had been laid immediately outside the door, heaped with boxes of chocolates, bottles of sweets, dolls of all sorts and sizes, bats, balls, hoops, peg tops, humming tops, boxes of bricks and of soldiers, toy ships, kites, aeroplanes, crackers, fruits, books, papers, musical instruments and charming little mechanical toys. By this table were the 3 Jones girls, each dressed in white, with the dog Barney, who barked with joy to see old Cole again. "Woke up," Maria was saying. "Woke up, parents. This is the Joneses' Christmas Fund, organised by Maria Jones as a token of her gratitude for having been thrice expelled from school. Every parent of a child attending this service is entitled to 1 package per child." "Hello, Maria," Peter said. "Hello, you two. I hear they've got the scoundrels," Maria called. "We had it on the wireless, but we'll talk about that later. Is yours a girl or a boy, madam?" At this instant the organ sent out some spiring and quavering rumbles which passed into Sleeper's Wake. Then, with a sudden burst of light, all the cathedral lights went on, shone for one glorious instant, went out again, recovered, and then burned clearly. The electrician had found out what was amiss. Now that the west doors were open, Kay could hear that the cathedral bells were ringing. He stayed there listening to them for a moment or two. Old Cole beside him saying, "A happy sight, a blessed sight, Master Harker. All these coming here to sing." Arnold of Tody went up to the nave to stare at the decorations, seemingly in a trance of pleasure at being back in Anno Domini. "Just 2 minutes more to go, Master Harker," Old Cole said. There came the sound of many men marching to a drum tap. A clear voice called an order, and with a clink of metal and grunt of leather, the band of the famous Thatcher Regiment, the Thatcher Toms, moved into position inside the church. Then crash came the salute of cannon in the barrack square for the stroke of midnight. Organ and brass band struck up full strength. The vestry door curtains fell back to each side, and out came the great cathedral crosses and blessed banners with all the cathedral choir and clergy. Voices lifted aloft in "O come, all ye faithful." By this time the triforium and clerestories, as well as every space in the cathedral, were packed with faces. All there sang as they had never sung. The singing shook the whole building. Somehow it seemed to Kay that it was shaking the cathedral to pieces. Kay himself was being shaken to pieces. His own head was surely coming off, still singing through the cathedral roof. In fact, the cathedral was not there, nor any at all of that glorious company. No, he was in a railway carriage on a bitterly cold day. The train was stopped. He was at Condicut station with his pocket full of money, just home for the holidays, and Caroline Louisa was waking him. "Why, Kay," she was saying, "wake up, wake up. You have been sound asleep. Welcome home for the holidays. Have you had a nice dream?" "Yes," he said, "I have." The end.